Have you ever looked around your home on a quiet Sunday morning and felt a sense of warmth so deep, you wished you could bottle it forever? My name is Grace Miller, and for most of my life, Maplewood, Ohio has been the safe haven where our dreams and worries quietly coexist. I'm a nurse at the local children's hospital, a job that teaches me every day how fragile and precious happiness can be. My husband Mark is a police officer, a gentle giant, whose laugh fills every room even after the longest, hardest nights. And our daughter Ruby, just 7, is the bright thread weaving us all together. On weekends, our little house overflows with laughter and simple joys. Homemade pancakes, the thud of tennis balls in the driveway, the sweet chorus of cousins playing in the yard. My sister Sarah lives just a few blocks away. Her husband Ben is the kind of man who fixes your leaky faucet without ever being asked. Their kids Liam and Chloe are Ruby's best friends. It's the kind of close-knit family life you read about in old storybooks, the sort that makes even a plain Tuesday feel like a celebration. This past spring, we were planning Chloe's 6th birthday party. The living room was a mess of balloons and wrapping paper, Ruby and Chloe bouncing from couch to couch in a giggling blur. The adults sipped coffee and shared stories, worries fading into the background. Looking back, I realize how easy it is to mistake routine for security, and how quickly the world can shift beneath your feet. In those days, I believed love alone could shield us from anything. As a mother, you find meaning in the small things, braiding Ruby's hair, listening to her dreams at bedtime, watching Mark teach her how to ride a bike down our sleepy street. The most ordinary days become treasures when shared with the people you love. Maybe that's why I miss the faint tremors that hinted at deeper fault lines beneath our perfect world. I wanted to believe that nothing could threaten our family's peace, not here in Maplewood. Sometimes I think about how easily we overlook the little signs, a quiet pause in conversation, a shadow passing over someone's face. We trust the people we love even when something in our gut whispers a warning. That's the thing about families we build our hopes on, trust brick by brick, and rarely imagine what it would take for those walls to crack. If you asked me then, I would have told you our life was solid, safe, and unshakable. But every story has a turning point, a moment when comfort gives way to uncertainty. I want to share ours with you, not just the heartbreak and fear, but the courage and grace that grew in the aftermath. Maybe you'll recognize a piece of your own story in mine. Maybe you'll see that even the strongest families can be tested, and that healing begins with the willingness to face the truth together. So let me take you back to that spring afternoon, when an ordinary family gathering became the start of a journey none of us expected. Birthday parties in Maplewood were never about extravagance. They were about togetherness. Chloe's 6th birthday had been circled on the calendar for weeks. The air was full of anticipation as we planned every detail, from the flavor of her cake to the color of the streamers. Ruby insisted on helping wrap the presents, her small hands clumsy but determined, adding extra tape just to be sure. In our family, these simple acts, tying ribbons, baking cupcakes, making handmade cards, became traditions that tied generations together. I remember my own mother doing the same for Sarah and me, laughter echoing through our childhood home. That morning, our house hummed with gentle chaos. Mark ran out early for orange juice and fresh flowers, while I double-checked the guest list, hoping we hadn't forgotten anyone important. Liam and Ruby argued over which music to play for the party, finally settling on a playlist that had everyone from Taylor Swift to the Beatles. Sarah and I worked side by side in the kitchen, catching up on life between measuring cups and spatulas. Sometimes I think the real gift of family isn't the celebration itself, but the planning, the preparation, and the comfort of having someone to lean on when things go awry. When guests began to arrive, the backyard filled with the sound of children's laughter and parents' easy conversation. The scent of grilled burgers and sun-warmed grass made everything feel just right. Chloe's eyes sparkled when she saw the cake, a 2-layer chocolate with bright pink icing made from a recipe passed down from our grandmother. She blew out the candles with a wish whispered so softly only she would ever know. These are the moments I try to memorize, to tuck away for rainy days, when the world feels less kind. I've always believed that the happiest families are the ones who cherish ordinary joys. It's not the price of the gift or the perfection of the party, but the love and intention behind each small gesture. I think of my neighbor, Mrs. Harris, who once told me that the best birthday she ever had was a picnic in the park with her grandchildren. No balloons, just a checkered blanket and sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. It's a truth I carry with me, a reminder that meaning is found in presence, not perfection. Still, I can't help but notice how quickly we let the rhythm of routine lull us into thinking everything will stay the same. As parents, we snap photos and save keepsakes, trying to hold on to time, hoping to preserve the innocence and security that surround our children. Yet sometimes when I look at Ruby and her cousins, I wonder if I've done enough to prepare them for the moments life isn't so gentle. We want our homes to be safe harbors, but we cannot control every storm. That afternoon, as the last gifts were unwrapped and the sun dipped behind the neighbor's oak tree, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Watching Ruby run through the grass, her laughter mingling with Chloe's, I thought about how quickly childhood passes and how important it is to celebrate it fully and often. Family traditions become a kind of shelter, a soft place to land when the world grows unpredictable. But sometimes even the most carefully built traditions can't protect us from what waits beyond our door. As we hugged our loved ones goodbye and began to tidy up, I noticed a faint unease settling in my chest. I brushed it away, telling myself it was just fatigue. I had no way of knowing that for our family this would be the last truly carefree birthday for a long time. And so with hearts full and spirits high, we stepped into the next chapter, not yet aware of how everything was about to change. Looking back, I realized the comfort of family gatherings often makes us overlook the subtle cues that something isn't quite right. We trust the routines: Ben grilling hot dogs at every barbecue, Sarah always finding the lost party hats, Chloe and Ruby inventing silly games that make the grown-ups laugh. On the surface, everything seemed ordinary, so ordinary that any worries felt out of place, even intrusive. I remember thinking how lucky we were, and how some families rarely see each other caught up in busy lives. Here in Maplewood, we were different, or so I thought. Yet every family has its quiet moments, when someone looks away too quickly, or a joke lands flat and nobody asks why. There were times when Ben would go silent, watching the children play with a faraway look in his eyes, or Sarah would squeeze my hand just a bit too tightly during a story. I brushed these off as signs of exhaustion, the kind that comes with parenthood bills, and all the worries that creep in after the sun goes down. Sometimes I'd tell myself that every family has its secrets, and it's best not to dig too deep. I'm reminded of my friend Rachel from nursing school. She once confided that her brother had always been a little different, quieter, withdrawn, quick to anger. No one ever asked about the reasons, and life moved on until one day everything changed with a single phone call. Rachel told me, "You see what you want to see, until you can't ignore it anymore." Her story stayed with me, tucked in the back of my mind like a warning light I hoped would never flash in my own life. I suppose it's easy to trust the people closest to us, to give them the benefit of the doubt. It feels safer that way, less frightening than admitting something might be wrong beneath the surface. In America, we're taught that family comes first, that loyalty is a virtue. But I've learned that loyalty doesn't mean blindness. Sometimes it means asking the hard questions, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. That's a lesson I wish I'd understood sooner, instead of letting habit and hope blind me to the things I didn't want to see. What I've realized is that true love for family isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about being willing to face uncomfortable truths together, to support each other through the storm instead of just enjoying the sunshine. I think about that now, about how quickly peace can unravel, and how important it is to pay attention even to the smallest signs. We can't protect those we love if we ignore the things that make us uneasy, no matter how gentle or loving our home may feel. That day, as I gathered up empty plates and tossed stray balloons in the trash, I caught a strange flicker in Ben's expression, a brief shadow gone before I could name it. I didn't say anything to Sarah or Mark. I wanted so much to believe that everything was fine, that these moments meant nothing. But deep down, I was starting to sense the tiniest crack in our perfect picture. If only I'd paused to listen to that inner voice a little more closely. And so, as the last guest departed and dusk settled over Maplewood, I found myself lingering in the doorway, wondering why I suddenly felt so uneasy. I didn't know it yet, but the story we were living was already beginning to change. Soon that sense of comfort I'd always trusted would be put to the test in ways I never imagined, and our family would have to decide what truly mattered most. There's a moment in every life when routine is shattered by something unexpected, a phone call, a message, a truth you never thought you'd face. For me, it happened on an afternoon that should have been as peaceful as any other. Mark was scheduled for an evening shift, so he'd gone to the police station early, kissing Ruby's forehead as he left. I was clearing the kitchen with Sarah, swapping stories and plans for the week ahead. Chloe and Ruby, still giddy from the party, chased each other across the living room, their laughter echoing down the hallway. Everything felt safe, ordinary, and right. Then my phone rang. I glanced down, surprised to see Mark's name light up the screen. It wasn't like him to call when he knew I was with family. When I answered, his voice was low and urgent, so different from the gentle calm I knew so well. "Grace, I need you to listen. Take Ruby and leave Sarah's house right now. Don't ask questions, just go." My hands went cold. I tried to steady my voice, asking what was wrong, but Mark just repeated himself. His words clipped and unmistakably serious. My heart raced, torn between panic and disbelief. In that instant, 100 questions spun through my mind. Was there an emergency at work? Had something happened nearby? Was Mark in danger, yet his warning was crystal clear? Take Ruby. Go. I looked at Sarah, searching her face for any sign of alarm. She saw my fear and put a hand on my arm, her brow furrowing. "But how do you explain to your sister that you need to leave right now for reasons you can't name?" It felt like betraying a sacred trust, but my instincts told me I had no choice. I gathered Ruby, still breathless from play, and told her we had to go home early. She protested, confused and disappointed, her cheeks flushed from running. Sarah pressed for an explanation, concern growing in her eyes, but all I could say was that something urgent had come up. I could see the confusion, even hurt, flicker across her face. It struck me then how fragile trust can be, and how quickly a happy afternoon can unravel when fear enters the room. Sometimes we have to follow our gut, even if it means risking misunderstanding. I'm reminded of a time years ago when a fellow nurse, Julia, had to make a split-second decision during an emergency at the hospital. She told me afterward, "Sometimes you only get one chance to do the right thing, even if nobody understands." Her story became a quiet mantra for me, something to lean on in moments of doubt. That day at Sarah's house, I realized the truth in Julia's words. When it comes to protecting your child, you can't wait for perfect clarity, you act because love gives you no other choice. Lesson learned, and learned deeply. Sometimes courage doesn't look like heroism. Sometimes it's just a mother gathering her daughter, apologizing to her sister, and walking out the door because something in her heart insists she must. We all hope we'll never face those moments, but when they come, they reveal what matters most: our willingness to risk being misunderstood for the sake of those we love. As Ruby and I walked to the car, my mind was swirling. She asked again why we had to leave, her small hand clinging tightly to mine. I reassured her, masking my own fear, but inside I could feel a storm gathering. I didn't know then how close we were to the edge of something far bigger than I could imagine. That day, with dusk falling on Maplewood, our story took a turn I could never have predicted. The ordinary comfort of family had given way to the first tremors of change, and there was no turning back. The world outside felt strangely silent as Ruby and I stepped into the cool air, the golden light of late afternoon slanting across Sarah's driveway. I held her hand tighter than usual, searching for comfort in her small, steady presence. When I reached our car, my heart dropped, a chill ran through me as I noticed something was wrong. All 4 tires were completely flat, rubber sagging against the pavement in a way that was too deliberate to be an accident. For a moment I stared, hoping I was mistaken, but reality settled in with a sharp, undeniable clarity. Panic threatened to take over, but I knew I had to stay calm for Ruby's sake. She looked up at me with worried eyes, sensing my distress. "Why can't we go home, Mom?" she asked, her voice quivering at the edges. I bent down and brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, assuring her that everything would be all right, even though I felt anything but certain. I thought about every story I'd ever heard from friends' neighbors finding their cars vandalized, or parents stuck somewhere unexpected with no safe way to get their children home. In moments like these, the mind races through every possible scenario. Was this a cruel prank by local kids? Or was it something more sinister? My instincts screamed at me to find safety, to put distance between my daughter and any hint of danger. I tried to call Mark, my fingers trembling as I dialed. When he answered, I could hear the tension in his voice, matching my own. He told me to leave the area on foot if I had to put Ruby first, and to trust that he would come as quickly as possible. His faith in me gave me the courage I desperately needed. Real courage, I realized, isn't about feeling brave. It's about doing what's needed, even when you're afraid. I hoisted Ruby onto my hip and began to walk, glancing back at the house, my thoughts racing with doubt and fear. All the while, I tried to keep my tone light, talking to Ruby about the clouds in the sky, the flowers lining the sidewalk, anything to keep her mind and mine off the uncertainty ahead. In those uncertain steps, I discovered just how deep a mother's strength can run when her child needs her. I remembered a story from our neighborhood about a woman named Donna who once had to evacuate her home with her 2 kids during a gas leak. She told me later, "Your job as a parent is to make it feel like an adventure, even when you're terrified." I never forgot those words, and now walking with Ruby under the lengthening shadows, I tried to channel Donna's courage to wrap my daughter in as much safety and reassurance as I could muster. Lesson learned: even when life throws something unimaginable your way, the most important thing you can do is take the next step, no matter how small or scared you feel. Children watch us for cues, and our calm, even if it's an act, can be their anchor. In that moment, I realized that loving Ruby meant showing up for her, especially when I was unsure what would come next. As the distant sound of sirens began to draw closer, I felt hope rise up mingled with dread. Mark was coming, and that meant safety was within reach. But deep down I sensed that whatever had started with a simple phone call was only just beginning. Sometimes what frightens us most isn't what's happening now, but the questions it raises about everything we thought we knew. And as Mark's patrol car pulled into view, our family stood at the threshold of a truth that would challenge every certainty we held dear. When Mark arrived, relief washed over me so suddenly I nearly burst into tears. He knelt beside Ruby, checking her over with a gentleness that always made me fall in love with him all over again. Ruby clung to him, her small fingers digging into his sleeve, and for a brief moment, the world felt safe again. Mark opened the back door of his patrol car, helping us inside his eyes, scanning the street with a mixture of worry and determination. I could tell he was holding something back, something heavy that weighed on his every movement. As we drove away, Mark finally spoke, his voice lower than I'd ever heard it. "Grace, there's something you need to know about Ben." The words hung between us, thick with dread. He explained that while reviewing old records at the station, Ben's name had surfaced in a way that couldn't be ignored. More than a decade ago, Ben had been convicted of a crime involving a minor, an offense that had left him marked no matter how many years had passed since. I listened in stunned silence, my mind struggling to match this revelation with the Ben I thought I knew. The shock of learning such a truth about someone close to you is hard to describe. My memories of Ben flashed through my mind, his laughter at family picnics, his steady hands fixing Chloe's bike, his quiet kindness at Christmas. It felt impossible to reconcile the loving uncle and husband we all adored with the man Mark described. I thought of a friend from work who once discovered her brother's hidden past and spent months questioning every memory. She told me, "It's like your whole history gets rewritten overnight. You have to learn how to trust your own instincts again." I tried to imagine what this news would mean for Sarah, for Chloe, and Liam, for the entire fabric of our family. Was it possible to separate the man Ben had become from the choices he made so long ago? The question pressed heavily on my heart, and I found myself feeling both furious and desperately sad. How do you protect the people you love from a danger you never saw coming? How do you forgive yourself for not knowing? There are no easy answers, only the slow work of facing the truth with honesty and care. Lesson learned: sometimes the greatest shocks in life come not from strangers, but from those we think we know best. It's a painful but necessary reminder that love and vigilance must go hand in hand. We can't change the past, but we can choose to face it together with courage and compassion. That's the only way to begin healing, even when the road ahead is uncertain and full of questions. As the patrol car pulled into our driveway, I looked at Mark, searching his face for reassurance. I knew that this was just the beginning of a much longer conversation, one that would test our family's strength and our ability to hold on to hope. The warmth of our home, once an unbreakable shelter, suddenly felt fragile. And as we stepped inside, I realized that the true measure of a family isn't how it endures the easy days, but how it responds when everything it trusts is called into question. That evening, Mark and I sat at the kitchen table, the weight of his revelation settling between us like a heavy fog. We spoke in low voices, careful not to wake Ruby, who was curled up in her room, still clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. I could see in Mark's eyes the conflict between his duty as a police officer and his love for our family. We knew we couldn't keep this to ourselves. Sarah deserved to know the truth, and so did Ben. The thought of confronting them filled me with dread, but I understood there was no way around it. Early the next morning, I called Sarah and asked if we could meet privately. She heard the strain in my voice and didn't hesitate. When she arrived, I struggled to find the right words. How do you tell your sister that the man she trusts most is not who he seems? My hands trembled as I explained what Mark had discovered. For a moment, Sarah sat completely still, her face a mask of disbelief and heartbreak. Then quietly she told me Ben had already confessed everything to her before they married years ago. Her voice shook, but she spoke with quiet conviction. Sarah explained that Ben had worked for years to rebuild his life. He attended therapy every week, took part in group counseling, and kept strict boundaries, never allowing himself to be alone with children, always transparent about his past. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, Sarah told me, but about giving someone the chance to prove they've changed. She admitted that it hadn't been easy. There were days when doubt crept in, and she wondered if love could really conquer such a heavy history. Still, she believed in Ben's commitment to their family and his ongoing efforts to make amends. I thought about the stories we hear in the news, how some families choose to sever ties completely, while others struggle to find a balance between vigilance and compassion. My neighbor Mr. Green once shared how his cousin faced a similar crossroads. We built new rules, he told me. Supervision, honesty, and never ignoring a gut feeling. I realized every family must find its own way forward, shaped by the particulars of their history and the hope for something better. There are no easy solutions, only choices made in love and fear. The lesson I've learned is that forgiveness isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily practice often revisited when old wounds ache or new doubts arise. Compassion does not erase the need for caution. In our case, we needed clear boundaries, open communication, and the courage to speak up if anything ever felt wrong again. Mark and I agreed that while Ben's efforts mattered, protecting Ruby and all the children would always come first. We owed it to them to be both loving and alert. As Sarah left that afternoon, we embraced tears, dampening each other's shoulders. Our relationship, once so simple, had become tangled with pain and hope in equal measure. Still, I sensed a new honesty blooming between us, a willingness to face hard truths, no matter how uncomfortable. That night, as I watched Ruby sleep, I promised myself to hold on to both vigilance and empathy, knowing our family's future depended on it. The days ahead would require all the strength and tenderness we could muster as we set out to rebuild trust, one small step at a time. A few days later, our family gathered in the living room, this time not for a celebration, but for an honest, difficult conversation. Mark, Sarah, Ben, and I sat together, the children watching a movie in the next room. Their laughter a gentle reminder of what was at stake. The mood was different now, more careful but determined. We all understood that trust had to be rebuilt step by step, and that protecting the children came before anything else. Mark spoke first, outlining what he felt were necessary safeguards if we were to move forward as a family. We discussed clear boundaries. Ben would never be alone with any child, no matter how routine the situation seemed. All family activities involving the kids would be supervised by at least 2 adults. Ben shared about his ongoing therapy, offering to be transparent about his counseling sessions and progress. I could see the strain on his face, regret, humility, and a desperate hope for acceptance. Sarah sat close to him, holding his hand, her support unwavering but not naive. "We're willing to do whatever it takes," Ben said softly, "because your trust is the most precious thing we have left." Hearing this, I thought of a story from my childhood. My father's best friend, Mr. Lee, once made a serious mistake that nearly cost him his family. But he faced the consequences, asked for help, and accepted every condition the family set. Over the years, he rebuilt his place in their hearts, not by words, but by daily acts of accountability and care. His journey was long and hard, but it taught me that redemption is possible when matched with honesty and responsibility. I saw a little of Mr. Lee in Ben now, a man trying to earn back his future one choice at a time. We also discussed what to tell the children, agreeing that while they didn't need to know every detail, they deserved reassurance and consistency. Mark suggested regular family check-ins, where everyone could speak openly about any worries or questions. We promised each other never to ignore a gut feeling again and to support each other if any situation felt wrong. It was a heavy agreement, but I felt a new sense of unity in the room, a shared understanding that love sometimes means setting the hardest boundaries of all. The lesson I learned in that living room is that true family isn't just about being together in good times. It's about facing storms side by side, even when the rain soaks through to your bones. Setting boundaries isn't about closing someone out. It's about creating a safe space where everyone can heal and grow. Compassion and vigilance, I realized, don't have to compete, they can coexist, shaping a new kind of trust that's more resilient because it's been tested. As the conversation drew to a close, I looked at the faces around me, tired but hopeful, anxious but brave. I knew the road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in days, I felt a fragile optimism begin to bloom. Together, we were choosing to move forward, eyes open and hearts guarded, but still open to possibility. And as we called the children back in, I reminded myself that sometimes strength is just refusing to give up on the people you love, no matter how hard the journey becomes. In the weeks that followed our family meeting, I watched Ruby and her cousins with a more careful eye. Children sense more than we realize, even when we think we're shielding them from grown-up worries. Ruby asked a few times why family rules seem different now, why she and Chloe could no longer play in certain rooms alone, or why there was always an adult nearby. I tried to explain in gentle words that sometimes grown-ups make changes to keep everyone extra safe, especially when they love you very much. It wasn't easy, but I knew that honesty in a way they could understand mattered most. I remembered a conversation with my friend Maya, whose son went through a difficult time at school. She told me how open conversations at a child's level helped her son process big feelings without growing afraid. Maya said kids need to feel heard, not just protected. That wisdom stayed with me. So I created small rituals with Ruby bedtime talks, family walks, and drawing pictures about her day. It gave her space to share any worries, even if she didn't have the words yet for everything she felt. The best gift we can give our children, I realized, is room to speak their hearts. Sometimes I worried about whether we were doing the right thing, keeping the family together under new rules instead of running from the past. There were quiet evenings when I lay awake thinking about every possible outcome, questioning if forgiveness and caution could really exist side by side. But then I'd watch the children play, their laughter rising in the late afternoon sun, and remember that healing is rarely a straight line. Trust isn't rebuilt in a day. It's stitched together with patience, hope, and dozens of small acts over time. I also found comfort in community. Our neighbor, Mrs. Howard, once organized support circles for local families facing tough transitions. She believed in talking openly about challenges, so no one felt alone in their struggle. I started to see how sharing our own journey, even in small private ways, helped lighten the burden. Others had walked similar paths, wrestling with mistakes, fear, and the courage it takes to choose love with eyes wide open. Every story reminded me that families, imperfect as we are, can still grow stronger on the other side of hardship. The lesson that took root for me was simple, but profound. Resilience is built in the daily practice of care. When we listen to our children, reassure them, and create routines that foster safety, we teach them that even when life is complicated, they are never alone. Mistakes and pain are part of every family's story, but so are the chances to start again. By leaning into each other and being honest, we give our loved ones and ourselves the grace to move forward. As autumn leaves began to fall in Maplewood, I felt gratitude for the new ways our family connected. We were different, yes, but perhaps deeper and more understanding than before. I knew there would still be difficult days ahead, but I also trusted in the quiet strength that comes from weathering a storm together. With every bedtime story and every honest conversation, we built something more lasting than perfection. A home where love and courage could grow side by side, no matter what the future held. As the seasons shifted and another year began, I often found myself reflecting on how far our family had come. We had traveled a road neither easy nor expected, one paved with difficult truths, hard-won forgiveness, and new boundaries shaped by both love and caution. What started as a story about celebration and simple joys had grown into something deeper, a testament to the power of facing life's hardest moments together. Our journey showed me that even when routine is shattered and trust is tested, families can find new strength in honesty and resilience. Looking back, I realized that every chapter, every joyful gathering, painful revelation, and late-night conversation carried its own lesson. I learned that it's okay to question what seems safe and to listen closely to your instincts. I saw how transparency and clear boundaries could coexist with warmth and support, creating a foundation where children could feel truly secure. And above all, I discovered that healing happens not in a single grand gesture, but in the daily acts of courage, listening, and forgiveness we offer each other again and again. There were moments of doubt and fear, times when I wondered if we would ever find our way back to one another. But through every family meeting, every bedtime reassurance, and every shared story with friends and neighbors, we grew stronger. Our imperfect journey is proof that no family is without struggle, and that the most beautiful bonds are often forged in the fire of honesty and care. If you're facing something similar, know that you are not alone, and that even the most fragile trust can be rebuilt one day at a time. In sharing our story, my greatest hope is to inspire others to face the hard truths in their own lives, with open hearts, clear boundaries, and the courage to reach for help when needed. If our journey has touched you, or if you have your own experiences to share, I invite you to join the conversation. Like this video, if you found it meaningful, subscribe for more real stories about family and healing, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. Your voice matters here. Let's keep building a community where compassion, resilience, and hope are always welcome. Thank you for spending this time with me and my family. Remember, perfection isn't the goal. Growing together, learning from one another, and standing by those we love is what truly matters. Until next time, may your home be filled with courage, kindness, and the quiet, steadfast strength that sees us all through life's storms.